Okay, fans in the audience relatively split between these two teams. And Tucson, he's not. He knows exactly what he wants, and he wants more cowbell.
He also wants more gold, because for once, not going to be that same love in the eyes coming through from Kramer. He's going for the Doran Shield, triple Doran Shield here. Feels like an old patch.
Yeah, where are we? 5 Doran Shields in this game? It's not too bad. Oh, he's doing the
The
Wolf
animation
jump
cancels
around.
are very impressive.
Yeah, nice. Although I think Wolf is actually a little bit better at it.
That's true.
Let's throw it out there.
Tucson's had some majestic Alistair games this season, especially with the Jungle Rumble. They've been able to line up those ults very well. Afreeca do have the two true threats, but it's really only 3 people that do damage in this game, unless Crown can get going and get very early damage onto the Karma.
One thing that I've really, really enjoyed watching is compositions that have 3 beefy tanks and Corki plus 80 carry.
Sure.
Because these compositions have been able to dish out a lot of mixed damage and really make things work. Saw it was actually yesterday, I believe, one of the MVP compositions that was able to win was with Ian on that Corki in the mid lane, and then a lot of tanks plus AD.
Top lane Super Leash, you'd say, for the Karma Mantra Q and also the Maokai starting off the red buff.
Okay, Marin going aggressive onto Cuvée. Already gets that passive out of the tree.
Good matchup for Shen, and that he can take some good damage trades, but it really doesn't matter. I talk about it as a counter matchup, but it's a bit facetious. They really don't do damage to each other after a single item, so it's only if you get an early gank that there's going to be kill pressure there. I wonder if Marin will go full tank on the Shen like we saw Untara doing in Game 1 and criticize Untara for doing. Didn't really have any pushing power in that game. Usually, Smeb has probably been our most notable. As Tucson takes a lot of damage, but Smeb's been our most notable Shen, and he lives and dies by the Tiamat rush into...
Yeah, Titanic Hydra very early as well in that build. It's not like, I just want some wave clear. It's, I want to kill you from Smeb. And Marin, he feels like the Tiamat Shen type vibe of a player. We'll see whether he does it. It's also much more fun to watch, so please don't build Sunfire Cave, Marin. I would be very disappointed.
Wait and see. Marin just controlling the lane. He always has those big CSDs, and you see the reason why is that plays like the jungler's not there, and when you're on a great team, like when he was on SK Telecom, it worked well, and when Afreeca's in form, he builds up big gold leads that most other top laners don't, because they play more respectful than Marin, who just demands that everything plays through his lane, whether the jungler's there or not.
Yeah. Also likes to take turret shots as well, meaning that he is certainly pushed up. Exactly right. Spirit waiting in the wings, clearing out his wolf camp right now, but often does head towards the top side of the map to clear out vision for Marin. Vision clearing out some wards, but does mean that Marin now knows that he can play as aggressively as he wants. I'm just worried about this Karma pick in the mid lane. I know it's comfort for Crown. That's definitely true, but has not been a pick that's been as successful recently as Spirit. There's the flash body slam, looking for another first blood, but it's going to go to Kuro this time, and that feels even better. Spirit's just making things happen this series, playing out of his mind.
I mean, your worry is clearly founded when it comes to the late game, but now also in this game, the early first blood going against him can just teleport back in, so won't lose multiple minion waves. Gragas could just stick around and threaten to dive, but just will back away and enter his jungle. Nothing could change about the jungle in that particular case, and Corki picking up the kill is a bit of a query. I agree with you in the terms of when we saw Karma played the most and when we felt the best about it was the spring final, when it was picked into LeBlanc and it's, I'm going to take teleport, follow you around, you can't kill me, and I clear waves faster than you do. In a side lane, Corki can sometimes take turrets in the face of a Karma with just 1 or 2 Trinity Force auto attacks every wave, and then just taking it down over time. Does the physical damage and magic damage, but it's not as trivial for Crown to shut down a Corki as it was the meta champions in spring season, and it's one of the reasons we saw a lot less Karma mid in summer season.
Yeah. Does mean that if Crown wants to go against his regular script, which is building as much damage as possible with Leandri's Torment and things like the Merlinomicon, instead goes for something like the Ardent Censer plus the Athene's Unholy Grail, could be buffing up Ruler's damage. Ruler behind currently in that lane on the bottom side, but we know that Xayah can be someone that you can get around. The Spirit, or Secret Agent Gragas.
Was hoping to see an Elastic Slingshot used and then look for a gank, but none was used.
Well, there's the flash already from Ambition. Elastic Slingshot, yeah, was already used, so it means that that headbutt pole had to be respected. Kramer looking for Core JJ. Grand Entrance comes in. Decent little shield coming out by Courage of the Colossus, but Kramer loses half of his health bar, so good news for Samsung bottom side.
Fans might compare what we could see from Samsung, because it could just be Athene's Unholy Grail Ardent Sensor, like a jungle Nidalee would build, like a lot of other supported mid laners would build, and then you just get, okay, 100% shield uptime and Ardent Sensor uptime onto Ruler. That's basically what the jungle Lulu was. But remember, the jungle Lulu got way ahead early, and the snowball factor was maybe more important than how many Ardent Sensors they had. So if you just hit that slowly, does it have the same impact for the Xayah? We don't know. It's just waiting in the wings.
Yep.
This is why.
There's the headbutt back, and all of the CC is there. Here's the one I prepared earlier for you, Spirit, says Tucson, hands him the kill and picks it up for himself.
Spirit's jungling this game is getting a huge playoffs buff. This player, who was a yo-yo in the regular season, he had some of the lowest lows of any player in the league, let alone jungler, donating double buffs to top laners, ruining other advantages, poor turret dives. But here he's god moding. We're seeing Samsung Blue Spirit rather than some of the other struggling Spirit iterations. And it's a treat to see, because he's a player that people were hyped to see on the Afreeca Freaks, who's had a bit of an indifferent year. If you're going to peak any time, as Samsung Galaxy remembers from 2016, this is the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I followed this guy around, of course. He was playing for WE over in China, and it was exactly that same story. It was, what Spirit are we going to get? Often they lived and died by whether he was going to play it well, and half the time he was on Jungle Riven doing crazy things. And this is a very different story. They're leaning on him like the backbone, and then Kramer is being that, you know, the right arm, sorry, for most people. I'm left-handed, so I was going to say left arm. So the strong arm to smack him around with.
Speaking of smacking.
Yeah, Spirit looking for it again. Almost has his flashback up. Doesn't seem to need it. Oh, dodges out of the way, but that's straight into a headbutt pole. Ventusen, he's just claiming names this game. Marin actually getting aggressed on by QV, but I don't think he's too worried. He's now got his wave clear picked up, and thank goodness, Papa Smithy, that is a tier match.
Samsung Galaxy relied on the strength of their duo lane and QV popping off, largely to get their victories in summer. Their duo lane is getting roamed on by an Alistar lane, and QV's been forced onto Maokai duty, largely to deny it away from Marin, but they just pair like for like. Marin can just go and farm and doesn't have to worry about if he dies or anything really, because it's a Maokai, not a Gnar. It's just a disaster for Samsung Galaxy. They may still win this game. They could still win this series, but Afreeca have read them like a book. They had the spoilers. It's like they had the script a couple of days ago, because they know exactly how to play against Samsung. They've been greedy with all their decisions in the early game, and Samsung have had many, many times to punish and failed every time.
Yeah, and you just have to think about what we were considering at the beginning of this series and what we're considering now as well, because when you thought about it, you thought moving into the battle against KT, if you wanted somebody else to be in the World Finals, you probably would have wanted a Samsung victory, because you felt like Samsung had the number of KT possibly over what Afreeca Freaks would have. However, looking at this, I'd probably send Afreeca Freaks if I wanted the end of KT Rolster and Kuro. He's making his way towards the top side. He wants some trees, but he's not going to get them. He's too tanky just to start things off, as that big one actually started to almost deny what I was saying.
We're seeing Corki roam first out of mid lane. We're seeing Alistar roam first out of bot lane. When you go for Karma mid lane, the minimum is that you're going to have push priority, but die a couple of times and pushing becomes more risky. Seeing Tucson just WQ in like he doesn't have a care in the world.
Yep, just wandering around, gets himself the stun onto Ruler, but may actually have to pop the ult here, as Unbreakable Will would be able to save him from the potential aggression, but he just wanders out casually. That's going to be his move. Kuro grabs the blue buff, and all is fine in the Afreeca camp. Heading towards a potential perfect game situation, 3-0 now, but no turrets to be taken just yet, and only 1,500 gold lead, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but so far this series, it's been all about Afreeca. Even this game, all of those points that they want to hit, all of the beats that they want to make for success are being claimed.
Afreeca running the gauntlet would be just as unlikely a story, or at least on the same wavelength as Longzhu being our champions, because Afreeca should not win best of 5s. They so often have struggled in best of 3s to replicate their games over 2 or 3 games, let alone 5. But if you win 3 in a row, you don't need to be able to deal with adaptation. They have set the tone of every game, found a lead in every game. We're seeing them evolve in a way that's really only comparable to Najin Shield's famous gauntlet run 3 years ago in 2014, where they faced across some of the best rosters in the world and left them wanting. And that is exactly who they will be compared to if they face KT Rolster, who will try to make sense of the games and try to make sense of Afreeca, which every analyst struggles to do.
Yeah. And it will make the double fairy tale story for LCK Summer 2017, which would certainly be a treat. But we know there's a lot of KT fans out there still wanting to deny this potential fairy tale, because wanting those players at Worlds is certainly something that we want. But Marin to make his way back, Spirit as well, Kuro representing even more of the players on the side of the Rocks Tigers that were so exciting years prior.
And no one mentions Kramer, who has had a bumper season, who has been the true Gauntlet MVP. He's been wonderful. So
there's a lot to be excited about.
You focus on what you lose out on if you don't have KT, but maybe we'll be forced to embrace what we do have, because like you say, we're seeing impressive growth from Afreeca that wasn't there in wildcard matches, but is there in this particular gauntlet so far.
And it's how that growth has moved forward as well, because it's not about fixing Afreeca's problems. It's about Afreeca saying, well, we have to play around Kramer, and we don't necessarily have a lot of compositions that we can use in order to do that. Let's just make a heap of compositions that do the same thing.
And that's the dream of a League of Legends analyst, is trying to make sense of new things, of innovation, of different ways of playing League of Legends. My favorite moment ever was the Heimerdinger jungle, the why of that in 2012, taking away the idea of what Smite meant and what jungling meant. And while it's not that level of innovation, it's rewriting a simple script of, hey, Kramer's pretty good, let's play around him, and just stretching it into so many different ways. It feels like you're playing around with a Zac. It's a very elastic thing they're playing around, and it shows that the knowledge we have of what League of Legends is and isn't is still going to be a fluid thing rather than stuck in a box.
Yep, always Flux is available as Tusen's going to be spotted. Oh my god, that flash body slam was out of control, but delivered underneath the turret ambition. More than happy to go against this, but Kuro's going to turn up. Tusen, Unbreakable Will's going to keep him safe for the moment, but can he survive? Samsung Galaxy, they're getting the roam towards this mid lane. You can see Marin going aggressive. He stops the teleport from coming down, and that is the second kill. And maybe we were talking up the Afreeca Freaks a little bit too early, because now Samsung are within touching distance of that gold value and looking like they're able to make the proactive moves nonetheless.
So we were impressed with the interrupt, but the ultimate, the kidnap, still goes through. Of course, no way to interrupt that. 2 members go down. It will be a Drake. Take a step back. Samsung are still keeping it competitive. No Stand United used by Marin because he was in combat the entire time.
Yeah, and it actually wasn't the interrupt. Thought that there was a teleport interrupted because we popped up and said hi to Marin for a second after a Shadow Dash, but not so lucky. Still going to work out just fine for Samsung, and good roam from the bottom lane. Get themselves an assist, possibly able to claim some more advantages towards the bottom side. Feels like Ruler has been having the farm advantage most of the time, but just how Kramer has been performing in these team fights has set him apart. Oh, that's cute.
Interrupt on the back coming through by Kramer. Note that we still do have our same reservations about the late game, because Crown is going full tank. I should say full support this time, with Athene's into Ardent Sensor. But 2 items Xayah is going to be fearsome to deal with. Finding a way to quell that threat is going to be a problem for Afreeca.
Yep, and already the Ardent Sensor picked up by Core JJ as well. I mean, he's very, very squishy. Now without that ID Oasis completed, but still means that Ruler is going to be able to cause a heck of a lot of a ruckus. And the best part about this is that this is a Samsung that we haven't seen so far today. It's the Samsung with ambition, with that level-headedness, that strong late-game team-fighting jungle power.
But it was reactive. It was a reaction rather than a proactive move by Samsung. It was initiated by Afreeca, and they made the most of it. So it still is the Samsung we expected today. Just was a bit more of a confidence trustful from Afreeca than perhaps was smart at the time.
See what Afreeca do, decide to bounce back from this one. Ambition's moving towards the bottom side of the map, but there's not a whole lot to do down there, especially given the fact that there's no red buff or the Dragon, but he will get a Rift Scuttler for his trouble.
Scuttle Vision will time out before the Infernal spawns, but they'll at least have the exact timer. The Scuttle's, okay,
Oh.
maybe Tucson will get it.
Take it all back. Tucson, the 2-1-0 cow. Feeling real good about that. Kramer has to try and hold on to his turret here. This could be dangerous. They're looking to poise themselves for first turret blood side of Samsung, which will open up the map. Normally something that Tristana wants to be doing in Spirit. He's identified that. Kuro's down here as well. No package available, but now Samsung will back away. But having this pressure, having the threat of all of that gold going over to Ruler, who has control of the damage in the late game. Ruler is the one that wants to be picking up all of those fat stacks. Denied it thus far.
A low health turret can often be a bait point rather than necessarily translate cleanly into a turret kill and thus first brick in the game. Note that we don't see the same sort of vision for a dive threaten coming from Samsung that we saw from Afreeca in similar scenarios, and they do have to also include the Shen as a potential headache. Shen himself has the Titanic Hydra, so we'll have the pushing advantage as we can see. Might even start proxying waves if he so chooses, and they will take the Rift Herald without any combat. Seems like Afreeca have just given up on bot lane with Tristana backing.
Yeah, has himself the Static Shiv, but not going to be able to make it to this turret before that one falls down. They're just going to grab themselves the Rift Herald and see what they can do about grabbing the next turret. Kramer will just look to pick up this minion wave as it heads towards the inner. It took a little while to try and grab this. He just wants that eye. There it is. Picks it up. Rift Herald is going to be now available. Try and push down some of these turrets. Oh, nicely done. Explosive charge. Feels good on low health backline minions, most certainly. Okay, wants to deny the steal away, but isn't going to be able to, and that's going to be the pickoff. Samsung looking for Tucson. Do get the ultimate out of the cow,
Tucson's
which
being
is
a little
good
bit
news.
too cute here. If he gets Blade Called, he'll die. Went the wrong way. He didn't have Corky dropping, and okay,
Yeah,
see
there's
more.
the flash hit. Teleport's coming in from everyone as there's the Pulverize. CoreJJ gets himself out, though, in the Kidnap. Actually, Tucson going to join his AD carry, and he gets himself to relative safety. Cubase over to the side as Crown picks up the first kill. Now Ambition tanking up damage. Remember, he does have the Cell Division. He'll be okay. Crown's the one to grab the kill, and everyone on Afreeca flashing health bars apart from Spirit and Kramer, and they're looking to try and get out. And Samsung looking to continue this pressure. New lease on life now for this Samsung roster. For the first time, we're seeing them in a position of power this series.
Being able to shrug away some of their problems in the mid lane, having Crown roam first. He's picked up 3 kills to complement his 2 deaths. Behind NCS, but at least going to have Ardent Sensor on his next back. And Zeal into Zeal item completion is the biggest point of strength in the game. That is when the low damage problems will not be a factor, because there's not really any tankiness yet on the side of Afreeca. So those sort of concerns are 35-minute concerns. Where we are at in the game right now, Afreeca have to choose their fights carefully, or they will be mown down by Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, and I feel like now it's about Afreeca trying to avoid fighting when you've got CoreJJ and Crown hanging around Ruler. If Afreeca Freaks can split this map apart, they do have fantastic splitting options. Is something that they can certainly make work, but you can see Ambition and CoreJJ looking to try and help out as far as defending this mid lane outer turret, and that is not going to work because the Rift Herald does a heck of a lot of damage with that first charge, especially at that sort of health value, so that is base. Well, things broken open in the mid lane. Great news for Afreeca Freaks, and that is going to even out the gold to about 1,000 higher for Samsung. Nothing to write home about at all.
How much of an investment will there be at the Infernal Drake? Right now, Marin does not have Stand United available just yet. Portrait is a little bit hard to tell, but it looks like it's not going to be available for another 30 seconds or so.
About a third of it still to go.
Now, Infernal's not the highest value to Samsung. It is not going to be a 4 damage Jace comp getting Infernal. It's going to be a bit more shields from Karma and mostly about Ruler, so lower value Infernal than it is for most teams, so you don't feel as bad if you're Afreeca giving that one up.
Although you probably wanted to take that one yourself. Kuro would be pretty happy, and Kramer as well, feeling good about that choice, but
when your opponent's at its strongest and they're taking an Infernal, then if it's a Jace comp, you feel terrible. In this sort of a comp, It would have been lovely, but it's an acceptable loss for Afreeca.
Well, speaking of Afreeca, in the bottom lane here, try and siege down his outer turret. Wandering over a lot of vision. In fact, Afreeca Freaks have vision in the areas that they need it, not necessarily the most wards. That award certainly goes over to Samsung. They have been able to skip out of the way of this vision, and Kuro down here with the package wants to try and take this.
Never sure if Afreeca will not just flash over a wall and engage. Well, JJ doesn't spot with his sweeper. So we'll put down vision. Just a bit of a vision wars here as Tristana's pushing up.
Yeah, there it is. Headbutt Pulve comes in as the package is delivered, but good Featherstorm timing from Ruler.
Very
Still
defensive
gets chunked
teleport.
out, yeah. In goes the Elastic Slingshot. Ambition doesn't find any knockups with it, though, as he's looking to try and take away this cow. Gets a massive shield, though, and can the Afreeca Freaks actually get here?
Got the turret.
Good knockback. They do manage to take down the turret, and the Cell Division has been popped on the side of Ambition. Can they get a Frost Bomb on top of it? I'm not sure, as the Grand Entrance comes in, and Crown grabs himself a kill after the teleport. Spirit has to get himself out as Marin here very, very late to this party. Teleport almost back up for Cuvée, but Afreeca Freaks just falling behind.
Yeah, second kill donated over. Marin couldn't complete his Stand United as the target fell. Tucson died as they were taking out the turret, and they could have just backed away with just a single death, but they continue to walk up, realizing that they already got the objective and there was nothing left to fight for. Extra kill donated to Samsung. Probably going to be the top lane turret given over to Samsung. Afreeca so often cannot keep things together for 5 games. And increasingly, after what was a very good early game, that might be happening here.
Yeah, good avoidance there from Tucson, and it actually looked like it started off in a situation where it was going to work. But Marin,
Oh, it was an interrupt, okay.
yeah, couldn't get himself far enough away.
Interrupt under the turret. Maokai is already unkillable. That's fine. I feel like you got the turret. Why overinvest? Very nice engage by Core JJ. Didn't even have flash open. A nice Grand Entrance, perhaps forced it. Afreeca didn't need to give up as much as they did. Cuvée overstayed for a turret, so he might be dead.
Well, Tucson going to have that headbutt Pulve. They're waiting for the twisted advance that he wants to use to try and avoid that, but can't get out of the way. The headbutt, the Bramble Smash, I'm not sure whether it's going to be enough. As okay. Core JJ turns up, and in goes Ambition. Good knockback there with the headbutt from Tucson, but Spirit not going to be pulled in. Good knockups. It's going to be retaliated upon, though, as Marin picks up the first kill of this fight. Ambition, remember, doesn't have the passive, but you can see Courage of the Colossus doing so much work. Spirit going to get knocked up with that Grand Entrance. This Rakan looking great from Core JJ as Ruler now taking names. Tucson so low. Spirit tries to get himself out, and that's the Xayah starting to become massive. Kramer, that's an explosion from the Karma, and Samsung Galaxy. Looks like Ambition really is that point of power for this team. No kidnap to come out onto Spirit, who is going to die. Just took a little bit longer than you may have expected. And welcome to Baron, Samsung Galaxy, and welcome to this series, finally.
Yeah, they're finally going to turn onto the Baron. There's 2 DPSs here, but they can teleport in with Cuvée. Will be 5 members of Samsung. Very hard for Afreeca to stop this.
Okay, well, Ambition, he's down very low, and here's the engagement. So many knockups, all too easy to take down the Tristana, and Kuro, now nothing that he can do. Baron falls down. This gold lead starting to become massive to the tune of about 5,000. And it's only going to get worse with big purple minions heading towards the structures of the Afreeca Freaks.
Now maybe we'll have that series. If Samsung can break the base during this Baron, the qualms about late game will mean so much less. Tucson go in pretty aggressively because he has his ultimate available.
Nature's Grasp going to be at least avoided by Kuro. But they want to take down this turret. Ruler says, well, I've got Ardent Sensor #1 here. Should be A-OK. Core JJ turns up as well, so they got the doubles. I have a feeling that Ruler will have all of his health back pretty quickly.
Pushing in with the Baron, no ability for Afreeca to contest, so gold lead being claimed for the first time this series and actually being pretty sizable. 7,000 gold is the lead for Samsung. They're just brute forcing with the Baron. There's nothing to stop them.
Yep, Tucson had to go back to base. He was all too low. And the base, like you're mentioning, is certainly going to be broken, Papa Smithy. Cuvée now going aggressive. Don't know whether they'll necessarily be able to get the inhibitor on this, but they are going to turn it around, and Kuro has to get the heck out of the way of all of these engage options. And speaking of which, Marin going to get jumped on. Inhibitor taken down. And Ruler, it just looks like he's got too many options. 5, 0, and 3 now on the Xayah. Looks so good.
Breaking the base with the first Baron is possible because you have the double shields to keep them alive. We're seeing the top lane. Well, they put a lot of time into killing Cuvée and continue to fight. The reason why Ambition felt good to go in is because look at the bot side. Tristana was taking first the minions, then taking the Krugs as this started. So it was always going to be a true 5v4. And yet Afreeca kept trying to trade back. They thought, okay, maybe the damage is not the highest. Maybe we can trade 2 for 2 or 1 for 1. Playing like a team in this case was not what they needed to do. They need to get out and prevent there from being any further losses. Afreeca lost the maximum there, and Samsung are 1 push away from ending the game.
And Crown now has a death cap as well, so you thought things were bad for Afreeca before, now only getting worse. Those shields are gigantic. Empowered Qs are going to hit like big, big trucks. Straight down on top of the Afreeca Freaks members. This game is getting harder and harder. And remember, this is blue side. Afreeca Freaks not necessarily the best blue side squad. They started in game 1 on blue side, and it's game 1, so they're going to get the game 1 buff. And then against MVP, they didn't win a blue side game after that. So next game could be a different story, but Samsung showing their hearts and minds are once again back in this series. And it looks so, so much better for them. The inhibitor should fall very, very shortly as Afreeca trying to find a way in, but Ruler is just so, so strong. You can take so much punishment as well, given the double ardent sensors. Just not looking like a lot of answers available for our blue team.
Yeah, we just never got to the part of the game where Afreeca's comp would naturally hit high gear against Samsung's. Could not afford to give away a Baron, because with the Baron, the full power of Samsung's comp was pretty clear to see. Huge shields coming through from the Karma meant they could just barrel down mid lane. No one had to recall. They could threaten dives with the Zac and the Maokai as Ruler trained down turrets. And now there probably will never be a moment in this game where there's less than a 3,000 gold lead for Samsung, where their comp can hit high gear in 5v5. The Samsung got the maximum. Every objective is pretty much free for them right now.
Yep, they seem to be just claiming whatever they want. Next Dragon's going to be a mountain here as well as Earth, Wind, and Fire. Oh, I'm so happy. This is brilliant. The September Dragons are out. Bob Smithy, as I believe, how close to September are we?
2 days.
2 days. Thank you very much. League of Legends reminded me of some brilliant music. By having the best dragons. Hopefully the Mountain Drake is actually taken, so it's at the top of the screen. Now Samsung looking at this last remaining outer structure for the Afreeca Freaks before they set up siege around the base. Not a lot of options, and it looks like the Afreeca Freaks know it as well. Don't want to tempt fate by going overly aggressive, and they want to capitalize on mistakes. It feels like that's the only option that they are going to have, and it's going to be a colossal mistake from Samsung if they are going to get something to happen.
Got to kill Ruler through flash, heal, and all the support ultimates. Nature's Grasp.
In come the kitties. They just want to use this to take down the turret. Ruler, so much shielding. As Tushin does at least get the knock up on top of him. The barrel comes down as well as now Ruler gets taunted up. He's no Featherstorm remaining as Marin is tanking very, very well with that dodge field. But now in goes the Xayah. Everyone flashing on the side of the Afreeca Freaks, and they think, well, I mean, we gave it a consolidated effort, guys, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. They're even going to take down this inhibitor as well. As Ruler back up to full health almost instantly after the aggression. The Afreeca Freaks now dealing with no more inhibitors remaining. And if they're going to win this game, it's going to be the most difficult task that they've had in a very long time.
Ball back in onto the cannon creep to close it.
Yep, the first Nexus turret will fall down like it's made of butter. Ruler made of shields as well as he's set up Marin just looking for it, but I don't think it's going to happen. A lot of desperation coming out from the Afreeca Freaks, but remember, they still have match point. It has to be that reverse sweep from Samsung, but this is setting them up in the best possible way. Double kill comes out for Ruler, who's just going ballistic. Make that a triple. Can he get the pentakill as they set themselves up to take down this Nexus? I think that they just want to win the game. Samsung, they've turned the momentum around, looking to get that reverse sweep happening. Ambition not hindered in his jungle run and looking like he is the secret stuff for Samsung Move.